In 2019, a software engineer in San Francisco named Marcus got the job offer he had been grinding toward for 6 years. Total compensation package? $340,000 a year. Base salary, stock options, bonuses. He called his mom crying. He moved into a 2-bedroom in the Mission District, leased a Tesla, started eating at the kind of restaurants where the menu has no prices. He upgraded everything, because that is what you do when you finally make it. He told himself he would start saving aggressively once he got settled in. In 2023, Marcus was laid off in a wave of tech cuts that wiped out tens of thousands of jobs across Silicon Valley. He had 4 months of expenses saved. 4 months. On $340,000 a year for 4 years, Marcus had accumulated almost nothing. Not because he was stupid, not because he was reckless in any dramatic way, but because every time his income went up, his life got proportionally more expensive, and the gap between what he earned and what he actually kept stayed nearly identical. Marcus is not a cautionary tale about irresponsibility. Marcus is a cautionary tale about a trap so perfectly engineered and so culturally invisible that the smarter and higher earning you are, the harder it is to see coming. Because the salary trap does not feel like a trap. It feels like progress. My name is Susan, and I have spent years watching people earn their way into financial fragility. Not poverty. Fragility, the kind where everything looks fine on the outside and nothing is actually secure underneath. If you have ever gotten a raise and wondered 6 months later where it went, or if you are earning more than you ever imagined and still feel like you are just keeping up, stick with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand a mechanism that the financial industry hopes you never think too hard about. It is called lifestyle inflation, but that name undersells how deeply it is woven into every system that surrounds you. Let me start with a story from 1899, because what happened then is exactly what is happening to you right now, just with better branding. A sociologist named Thorstein Veblen published a book called The Theory of the Leisure Class. Veblen had been watching the newly wealthy industrialists of the Gilded Age, the railroad barons, the steel magnates, the men who had made fortunes so large they bordered on incomprehensible, and he noticed something strange. The richer they got, the more they spent on things that served no practical purpose. Enormous houses that sat empty most of the year, wardrobes worth more than most families earned in a lifetime, carriages, jewelry, yachts, elaborate dinner parties where the food alone cost more than the average worker made in a month. Veblen's insight was that this spending was not really about the things, it was about signaling. The point of the enormous house was not to live in it, the point was to demonstrate that you could afford to waste money on it. He called this conspicuous consumption. The consumption was conspicuous, meaning visible and public, because the whole purpose was the visibility. Here's what Veblen understood that most economists at the time missed. Humans are deeply social creatures. Our sense of status, safety, and belonging is tied to how we are perceived by others. And in a world where your actual bank balance is private, people use visible spending as a proxy for financial success. The person with the nicer car, the bigger house, the better wardrobe, we read these things as signals of competence and security, even though they tell us almost nothing about actual financial health. In 1899, only the very wealthy could participate in this signaling game in any meaningful way. But somewhere in the 20th century, something changed. Consumer credit expanded. Manufacturing got cheaper. The middle class got access to status symbols that used to be reserved for the elite. And suddenly, the signaling game was not just for the Gilded Age barons, it was for everyone, including you, including Marcus. Every dollar you spend on visible status is a dollar not building your actual security. And the system, every advertisement, every social media feed, every cultural norm about what a successful person's life looks like, is perfectly engineered to keep redirecting your earnings toward visible spending and away from invisible security. That is the salary trap. You earn more. The benchmarks for what you are supposed to have shift upward automatically. You spend more to meet those benchmarks. Your actual financial security barely moves. Repeat for 30 years. Now, let me make this concrete, because abstract patterns are easy to nod at and ignore. I want to introduce you to a concept called the savings rate and explain why it is the single most important number in your financial life, more important than your income, more important than your investment returns, more important than anything else you could optimize. Your savings rate is simply the percentage of your income that you actually keep and invest. If you earn $80,000 and invest $8,000, your savings rate is 10%. That's it. And here's the math that most people never sit with long enough to feel. A person with a 10% savings rate needs roughly 46 years before they have enough invested to retire comfortably using the 4% withdrawal rule. That is not a typo. 46 years. Start at 22, retire at 68. That's the math of a 10% savings rate. A person with a 20% savings rate needs 37 years. Start at 22, retire at 59. A person with a 30% savings rate needs 28 years. Start at 22, retire at 50. A person with a 50% savings rate needs 17 years. Start at 22, retire at 39. The number of years until retirement has almost nothing to do with how much you earn. It has almost everything to do with the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And that gap, that savings rate, is entirely within your control, in a way that your salary never fully is. Here's the part that lands differently once you do the math yourself. Marcus, earning $340,000 and saving 2% of it, is in far worse position than someone earning $70,000 and saving 30% of it. The person earning $70,000 is accumulating real security every year. Marcus is accumulating a lifestyle that requires $340,000 annually to sustain, with almost no buffer if that income ever stops. And as millions of people in the tech sector discovered between 2022 and 2024, income can stop. Let me tell you about two people I want you to meet. We will call them Veronica and James. Veronica is a marketing director. She earns $110,000 a year. Nice apartment in a good neighborhood, leases a car, goes on 2 international trips annually, has a wardrobe she is proud of, and a social life that keeps up with her professional circle. She contributes 6% to her 401k, which gets her the company match. She has about $22,000 in a savings account for emergencies. She's 38 years old, and she feels reasonably good about where she is. Here is her actual situation. At 6% contributions on her salary, she's putting away about $6,600 a year. With the company match, call it $9,900. At 7% average annual returns, starting from roughly $40,000 she already has saved, Veronica will have approximately $1.1 million by age 65. Using the 4% withdrawal rule, that's about $44,000 a year in retirement income. Add Social Security, and she might reach $65,000 to $70,000 annually. That sounds okay, but Veronica currently spends about $95,000 a year to maintain her life. She's going to retire and immediately need to cut her spending by 30% or more. The lifestyle she has spent 30 years building is not the lifestyle she can afford to keep. James is a project manager at a mid-sized company. He earns $78,000 a year. He has a roommate in his mid-30s because it keeps his housing costs down. He drives a 2015 Honda CR-V he bought used and has driven for 5 years. He rarely eats out unless it is a specific occasion. He takes one trip a year, usually somewhere drivable. He contributes 22% of his income to retirement accounts. He's been doing this since 27. James, at 38, has about $215,000 invested. He's already passed the first major inflection point where his portfolio is generating more annually from returns than he is contributing each month. His projected retirement number at 65 is roughly $2.8 million. That's $112,000 a year in withdrawals, plus Social Security, for a total retirement income that is nearly 50% higher than his current salary. James is not depriving himself. He has a full life. He just decided early that the gap between what he earned and what he spent was the most important financial lever he controlled. Veronica makes $32,000 more per year than James. James will retire with more than twice her financial security. This is the salary trap. Income is not the variable. The gap is the variable. Now I want to talk about why this is so hard, because telling people to just spend less is about as useful as telling people to just eat less sugar. Technically correct, completely useless as advice on its own. The reason people fall into the salary trap is not ignorance or laziness. It is a combination of forces that are genuinely difficult to resist. The first force is social anchoring. Your reference group, the people you work with, grew up with, went to school with, establishes your baseline for what a normal life looks like. If everyone in your professional circle drives a certain kind of car and lives in a certain kind of neighborhood and goes on certain kinds of vacations, the pull toward matching that standard is not vanity. It's a deep social instinct that has been with us for hundreds of thousands of years. Belonging to the group was survival. Looking like an outlier felt dangerous, even when the danger is entirely abstract. The second force is institutional acceleration. Every time your income goes up, a remarkable number of systems automatically adjust to capture that income. Your landlord senses it is time to raise the rent. Your insurance company notices you have a better car to insure. Your credit limit increases, which research consistently shows leads to higher spending. The tax bracket shifts. The financial advisors start calling. The economy is extraordinarily good at finding and redirecting income before it can turn into savings. The third force is the lifestyle ratchet. This one is the most insidious. Spending is much easier to increase than to decrease. When you upgrade your apartment, you're not just signing a lease, you're resetting your baseline for what normal feels like. Going back down feels like a failure, even though it's just a number. The new car smells great for 3 weeks, and then it's just your car, but the payment is locked in for 5 years. Lifestyle upgrades are almost entirely permanent in practice, even when they are theoretically reversible. So every upgrade you make increases the floor below which you will not feel comfortable, and that floor keeps rising. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine your spending is a river. When income is low, the river is narrow and controlled. When income goes up, the banks widen automatically. The water spreads out to fill the new space. Almost no new water makes it to the ocean, the savings account, because it all gets absorbed into the widened channel. The only way to get water to the ocean is to build a dam before the banks widen, move the money before the spending can expand to claim it. That's the whole mechanism, really. The people who escape the salary trap are not people who earn less. They are people who move the water before the banks widen. Let me give you the action framework. The first thing is to calculate your actual savings rate right now, not what you think it is, what it actually is. Take everything you invested last year, 401k contributions, IRA, taxable brokerage, anything you actually put to work, and divide it by your gross income. That number is your savings rate. If it's below 15%, you are on the long road to retirement and highly vulnerable to any income disruption. If it's below 10%, you are running a real risk of reaching your 60s with a financial situation that does not match your expectations. Write the number down. Let it be uncomfortable if it needs to be. The second thing is to implement what I call the raise intercept. Every time you get a raise, before you receive a single paycheck at the new rate, log into your retirement account and increase your contribution percentage. If your raise is 5%, increase your contribution by at least 2 or 3 percentage points. Your take-home pay still goes up, you still get to feel the raise, but a meaningful portion of every future paycheck is immediately rerouted away from the spending channel. Do this every single time your income increases, and your savings rate will automatically climb over your career without ever requiring dramatic sacrifice. The third thing is to audit your status spending. Go through your last 3 months of expenses and find the things you bought primarily because of how they would appear to others or because they matched the standard of your social environment. Not the things that genuinely bring you joy or serve a real function. Those are fine, but the things that you bought because of the external signal they send. Eat out at that restaurant because the food was extraordinary or because of the image it projected. Bought that particular brand of clothing because you love it or because of the label. Leased that specific car because it drives better than the alternatives or because of what it says about you in the parking lot. I am not asking you to judge yourself. I am asking you to see clearly, because most of us have a significant portion of our spending driven by social signaling rather than genuine preference, and that spending grows automatically with income if you do not consciously intercept it. The fourth thing is the most counterintuitive. Stop treating a high income as a safety net. This is the psychological trap that got Marcus. When you earn a lot, it is easy to feel that the income itself is the security. It is not. Income is a flow. It can be cut off. Security is a stock. It accumulates. The people who got laid off in the tech cuts of 2022 and 2023 with 12 months of expenses saved were inconvenienced. The people who got laid off with 4 months of expenses saved had their lives upended. Marcus had 4 months, on $340,000 a year for 4 years. High income without high savings rate is a performance of financial success, not financial success. The applause is real, the security is not. Let me zoom out and give you the bigger picture, because the salary trap does not just affect individuals. It is a feature of the economic system, not a bug. An economy runs on spending. Consumer spending is roughly 70% of U.S. GDP. The entire infrastructure of marketing, advertising, product design, credit extension, and retail is engineered to ensure that income gets spent as quickly and completely as possible. When you increase your savings rate, you are, in a small way, opting out of the system that is designed to capture your earnings. The system pushes back. The ads get more targeted, the social pressure escalates, the financing terms get more attractive, the new model comes out right when you were feeling good about the old one. None of this is a conspiracy, it's just incentives. The economy needs spending. The people and companies that generate spending are good at generating spending. You are the target, and the higher your income, the more attractive a target you become. Understanding this does not make you paranoid, it makes you calibrated. You can still participate in the economy, still buy things you enjoy, still live a full and comfortable life. You just do it from a position of awareness rather than reaction. You decide what to spend on rather than letting the system decide for you. Here's the scenario I want to leave you with. 2 women, both 32. We'll call them Carla and Nina. Carla just got promoted. Her salary went from $65,000 to $88,000. She's thrilled, and she should be. She worked hard for it. She moves into a nicer apartment, just 1 step up from where she was, nothing crazy. She upgrades her car because her old one was starting to feel tired. She starts shopping a little differently because she can. She tells herself she'll start saving more once she gets settled into the new budget. She increases her 401k contribution from 5% to 8% because that feels responsible. Her savings rate on the new salary, about 8%. In terms of visible life quality, Carla looks like the one who got ahead. Nicer place, better car, updated wardrobe. Nina looks roughly the same as before the promotion. In 10 years, Carla has about $130,000 invested. Nina has about $390,000. Same salary, same promotion. The only difference was what happened in the 48 hours after the raise was announced. This is not about suffering. Nina is not suffering. She's living well. She's just living in a way that's building something real instead of something visible. At 390,000, Nina is approaching the inflection point where compound interest starts doing serious work on her behalf. Her money is beginning to earn more than she contributes. The snowball is getting heavy. In another decade, at the rate she's going, she's looking at options that Carla won't have. Earlier retirement, career flexibility, the ability to say no to work she doesn't believe in, the ability to handle a financial crisis without it becoming a catastrophe. Carla will have a nicer apartment for 10 years. Nina will have freedom for the rest of her life. The salary trap is not about your income being too low, it's about your income never catching up to your spending because your spending keeps adjusting upward to absorb every gain. The escape is not earning more, the escape is building and protecting the gap. 3 things to take away from this. The first is your savings rate is the most powerful number in your financial life. More than your salary, more than your investment returns, the percentage you keep and invest determines everything about your financial future. Calculate it. If it's uncomfortable, that's the right feeling. That's the feeling that precedes change. The second is to intercept every raise before the spending can claim it. The raise intercept, increasing your contribution percentage the moment the raise is announced, before you ever receive a paycheck at the new rate, is the single highest leverage financial habit I know. It costs nothing, it requires no sacrifice in the traditional sense because you never see the money, and it compounds your savings rate automatically over your entire career. The third is the gap between what you earn and what you spend is your actual financial power. Income is what impresses people at dinner parties. The gap is what lets you sleep at night when the economy turns, when the company has layoffs, when life does what life always eventually does. Protect the gap like it's the most valuable thing you have, because it is. Marcus is back on his feet. He found another job eventually, but the 4 years of extraordinary income left him with almost nothing permanent except a lifestyle that now costs more than he's comfortable with, and a hard lesson about where financial security actually lives. It does not live in the salary, it lives in the gap. Boring index funds, automatic contributions, and a savings rate you're proud of will build more lasting freedom than any income number ever will.